What's going on, guys? My name is Richard Moglen and welcome back to the channel. In this Stock of the Week episode, we're going to be talking about AMD, or Advanced Micro Devices. And if you're not familiar with what they do, they basically design microprocessors and graphics cards. In this episode, we're first going to take a look at the fundamentals in Marketsmith, which is sponsoring this video. Then we'll head into TC2000, talk about potential entries, previous trades that I tried, and also a couple characteristics that I think indicate that this could be a true market leader. And then we'll wrap up the video with talking about a couple of the products that they offer and taking a look at their overall website. So first, jumping into Marketsmith, the first thing that I look at is the chart pattern. And you can see that they highlight a cup, a stage 3, which is a little bit later stage, but with the big correction, it could be primed for another run up. So overall, nice constructive price pattern. I've been waiting to see it build out a handle right here, and I actually did buy shares on this day when it gapped up on above average volume. And overall, I really like this overall pattern because it had a nice run up from its previous base, very tight here, signs of accumulation. And if we take a look at the weekly chart, you can see that there's basically about 10 straight weeks where it was up, and that shows you that institutions are behind those up weeks and are accumulating shares. And cup and handles work best after a long consolidation just like that, and then you shake out the weak holders here and get ready for another move upwards. So that's the first thing that I look at, and then I look down here and take a look at the recent earnings reports. And the last earnings report, you can see earnings were up 300%, sales were up 50%, and after-tax margins were up 18%. So that's about as good as you can hope for. And if we go to my rank sheet quickly, you can see it's number 9, right up there with some very, very good stocks. So fundamentals are very good overall. And taking a look at the annual estimates, this also really caught my eye. For 2020, the estimates are up 70%. And then for 2021, it's supposed to be up another 42%. So that type of earnings growth can really drive up a stock's price. And that's another big reason why I've been focusing on AMD. And taking a look at the overall ratings here, you've got an EPS rating of 73, Group RS of A+. That's great to see in this type of environment. SMR rating of an A, accumulation distribution rating of B-, and a composite rating of 99. So overall, it's basically top tier in terms of the IBD ratings. And taking a look at the funds, you can see that the ownership is increasing steadily, and basically you've got over 1,900 funds with positions in the stock at this time. And overall, you can see how much funds and banks own shares. And taking a look at the industry and sector, you can see that the RS is number 1 in its group, which is always good to see. And overall, that group is doing pretty well. And taking a look quickly at the RS line, you can see it's right near all-time highs, which is great to see. And overall, it's a 97. And if you just focused on stocks with RS lines or RS ratings over 95, that's a great group of stocks to be with. Now, the overall negative for me in taking a position today is you've got that EPS report due in 5 days. So that's not much time to build up a cushion, and most likely I will be selling my shares before that market report. So that is a negative, and I would have had more of a cushion if I stayed in the stock right here. And let's actually go ahead and talk about that trade. So I noticed that it was coming off the bottom really nicely after bouncing off that 200-day moving average. And I was waiting for it to set up nicely and consolidate a little bit. And it formed this nice higher low right here. And I saw this green dot. I didn't want to enter on that day because it gapped up. But I waited for this day where it actually also had another gap up. But I waited for it to keep moving up to buy my shares. And unfortunately, it fell right back into basically the short consolidation there. And I was stopped out of my shares. And then just the next couple days, it moved up quite substantially. Let's see where I would be right here. So up about 17%. So that's quite a nice gain. And it's consolidating right near the top of the start of the cup, right where you would expect it to do so. And one of the reasons why I think this could be one of the next true market leaders is basically because it was one of the first to really move up and test its prior all-time highs. And a lot of stocks like that, like Shopify, Zoom, those were staying near the all-time highs, and even though they dropped down, they were testing them very quickly. AMT is another good example. And I've been waiting for another short-term kind of consolidation to buy shares in once it starts moving upwards. And today I got that signal right here. So I did buy a half position at this time, and I'll see how it acts before earnings report and decide whether I should sell or keep going. I would need a substantial increase to really hold through earnings, especially because there could be some guidance downwards in that earnings report. So that's what the chart looks like. And another reason that I really like this spot here was because it was testing this prior line of resistance, which is this previous all-time high that it set all the way back in 2000. So that's a significant area of resistance, and it was able to overcome that, although it was dropped right back down. But the next couple of days, it was able to move upwards. So it's above all those prior areas of resistance, and right now it's flirting with all-time highs, which is exactly when I want to be buying a stock. So will it move up from this point? No one knows, but I've got my stop loss in place, and I've got my plan going forward. So that's pretty much what I want to talk about with the chart. And now let's head over to the website and check out its products. So overall, it makes processors and graphics cards. I probably know it more for its processors, which have been used extensively because they are a little bit cheaper than Intel's. And you can actually see an article right here, and I'll link this below. And you can see that the budget processor can really outperform the $350 Intel i7. So the Ryzen 3 3300X is only $120, and it basically has much better performance over the Core i7 from Intel. So that's kind of one of the main sticking points with AMD. It's producing these processors and graphics cards that are kind of cheaper than the mainstream alternatives from Intel and Nvidia, and they are able to produce excellent performance. And there's another article that I was reading recently where it was basically making the argument that Apple should basically replace the Intel chips with these new Threadrippers and a Ryzen series, because you get much better performance for the price. And if Apple decides to do this, that would drive up sales and produce a lot more revenue for the company. And last fall, I actually watched kind of their product launch where they were talking about all their new processors, showing all the performance specs, and I'll link that below if I can find it. And basically, it seemed like all their new basically chips vastly outperformed the performance of the industry standards. So if AMD can take over that market share from Nvidia and Intel, that would be huge for the company and drive up those earnings. And on their website, they list all these different specs. I'm not an expert in graphics cards or processors, so this doesn't mean too much to me, but I know from the things I've seen that their performance is fantastic. And personally, when I look to buy and build my own personal computer, I would definitely choose an AMD chip because it just has better performance. And I know if I could save 15 minutes off of exporting this video or exporting a Photoshop thumbnail, I would definitely pay a little bit extra for that extra performance and more time. And that is pretty much my take on AMD. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and please, if you did, go ahead and leave a like down below. It really does help me out and my channel. But other than that, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in future videos.